Have you ever wondered about the hidden forces that shape our world? Things that influence everything from the price of your coffee to the taxes you pay. Well, today we're talking about one of those forces. It's called elasticity. And honestly, understanding it is like getting an economic superpower. Let's dive in.
So let's start with this. A brand new phone is suddenly 50% off. You're probably dropping everything and running to the store, right? But what if table salt was 50% off? You'd probably never even know. So what's the deal? Why this huge difference in how we react? That's the puzzle we're going to solve.
And the answer isn't some kind of magic. It's actually a core concept in economics. In this first part, we're going to break down exactly what elasticity is and how we can actually measure our reactions to something like a price change. Okay, so here's the official textbook definition. Price elasticity of demand is basically just a way to measure how much our buying habits stretch or shrink when a price changes. It's the perfect tool for figuring out that whole phone versus salt mystery.
You know, the best way to think about this is with a rubber band. Seriously, if your demand for something is elastic, it's like a brand new, super stretchy rubber band. You give it just a little pull, a small price change, and whoosh, it stretches a ton. But if your demand is inelastic, it's like an old, stiff rubber band. You can pull on it really hard, and it barely moves.
So how do economists actually put a number on this stretchiness? It's surprisingly simple. You just figure out the percentage change in how much people are buying, and you divide that by the percentage change in the price. That's it. The number you get tells you exactly how elastic or inelastic that demand really is.
All right, so now that we've got the definition down, let's really explore these two sides of the coin, elastic versus inelastic. This is where we start to see how this concept plays out in the real world, and trust me, this is where it gets powerful.
Now, this graph might look a little intense. It's actually from an old economics exam, but don't worry about the details. Just look at the line itself. See how steep it is, almost straight up and down. That represents inelastic demand. It's basically showing that even if the price goes way up, people don't really change how much they buy. Think about something like gasoline. You got to get to work, right? So you pretty much have to pay whatever it costs. And here, we've got the complete opposite. See how flat this demand curve is? That's elastic demand. This means that even a tiny little price increase can make sales totally plummet. This is super common for things that have a lot of alternatives. You know, if one brand of soda gets a little more expensive, you just grab the one next to it. No big deal.
So, what makes something elastic or inelastic? Well, it usually boils down to these four things. First, are there a lot of substitutes? The more choices you have, the more elastic your demand is. Then, you've got to ask, is it a necessity or a luxury? And finally, think about how much of your budget it takes up. A 10% price jump on a pack of gum? You won't even notice. A 10% jump on a new car? Yeah, that's a whole different story.
Okay, so this stuff isn't just for textbooks. For businesses, understanding elasticity is like a secret weapon. It is the key to making one of the most critical decisions they face. What price should we charge? Right, imagine you're the boss. You need to bring in more money. So what do? Do you slash prices hoping to sell a lot more? Or do you raise prices to make more profit on each sale? Make the wrong move, and it could be a disaster. The right answer, well, it all comes down to whether your customer's demand is elastic or inelastic. And this is the key insight. Check out this graph of total revenue. See how at first, as you sell more, your revenue goes up, but only to a certain point. After you hit that peak, cutting prices to sell even more actually makes your total revenue go down. Finding that sweet spot, that peak, is everything. And elasticity is what tells you exactly where it is. And here it is, the ultimate cheat sheet for any business. If you know your customers have elastic demand, meaning they're super sensitive to price, then lowering your price will bring in so many new buyers that your total revenue will actually go up. But if their demand is inelastic, you can raise the price, you won't lose that many customers, and boom, your revenue goes up. It's pure business strategy, all based on that one little number.
Okay, so we've seen how this works for a single business, but now let's zoom out and look at the whole economy. Because elasticity doesn't just decide profits, it also decides who really ends up carrying the weight of government policies, especially taxes. So, you know when the government puts a new tax on something? Let's say a $1 tax on a gallon of gas? Who actually ends up paying that dollar? Do you, the consumer, pay it through a higher price at the pump? Or does the gas station pay it through lower profits? Well, there's a term for this division. It's called tax incidence.
Looking at this graph, you can see exactly how it works. A tax literally drives a wedge between the price that a buyer pays and the price that a seller actually gets to keep. the burden gets split. To see how, let's pull the actual numbers from this very chart.
Okay, first, let's look at the buyers. After this new tax is put in place, the price you pay at the register jumps up to $8. That's the top of that tax wedge we just saw.
But the sellers don't get to keep all that cash. After they send the tax money to the government, they're only left with $5. So that $3 gap between what the buyer pays and what the seller keeps, that's the tax. And you can see, in this case, the burden is definitely being shared.
And here's the crucial point. Who pays more of that tax bill depends entirely on elasticity. If demand for a product is inelastic, think cigarettes for a smoker, they have to buy them, the company can just pass most of that tax cost right on to the consumer. But if demand is elastic, like for, say, a luxury yacht, the seller can't really raise the price much without losing all their customers. So they have to absorb most of the tax themselves.
So when you boil it all down, when you strip everything else away, what is elasticity really about? It's about power. It's about who has the flexibility and who doesn't. The side of the deal that's more inelastic, the side with fewer options, is the one with less power, and they're the one that ends up shouldering more of the cost.
So next time you see a big sale or you hear politicians debating a new tax on gas or soda, you'll have this new lens to see it through. You can ask yourself, okay, is the demand here elastic or inelastic? And who does that give the power to? Because now you know the answer tells you who's going to be rushing for that sale and who's really going to pay that tax.